Welcome, everybody, and good evening. This is episode 134 of FMA Discussion, and tonight I'm so excited and fortunate that she came on. We have Guru Maija from Visayan Flow. So thank you for coming on.
Just as a point of interest,
Sure.
I am. I don't really go by Guru. I know it's kind of, I know it just means teacher, and yeah, sure, I do teach it. But Sonny always was known as Sonny. People would come and say Maestro, and he'd be like, "Don't call me that." And they'd say, "Oh, sorry, Guru," and they're like, "Don't call me that." "Oh, yes, sir, absolutely." So don't call me that. So just with his example, he didn't think titles really meant anything, that you showed your respect by your behavior. So that he didn't trust people. I think they gave him compliments. So you can just call me Maija. That's totally fine. Nobody needs to be Madam this, Sir that, Guru this, nothing like that.
Grand Supremo.
Just Maija is good. It's fine.
That works. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Your name came up. Obviously, Greg and Jay spoke highly of you, and so I thought it was fitting that we finally get you on here. So
yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's going to be fun, and it's nice that you've got to also see some of what the system already looks like, so you have an idea a little bit of what we're kind of on about.
I had them on, and the first part was more informative, kind of their journey, this, that, their meeting with Maestro Sonny, and then the second one was more based on, they actually showed some of the stuff and application. So yeah, it was a great two-part thing.
I did watch them, by the way. So yes.
Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed them.
I did.
I hope we did justice. So again.
Yes. Hello, chat people. Nice to see you.
Yeah, we got. Yes, if you're watching, please tell us where you're watching from. Hit the like button. We got thus far. We got Martin, who's a moderator on there. All right. We got Jason, who sent some questions.
Who's studying with Jay by the looks of things, and Alvin. Hello again.
Yes, I think Jason mentioned that. Yeah. So just before, okay, so your first FMA experience, was it in fact with GM Sonny, or was there a system you did previous to meeting him?
Yeah, I've been doing internal Chinese arts for a really long time. That's kind of my gateway drug, if you like. I'm old enough to tell you that I first did Tai Chi in 1986, and I was an adult at the time, and that was my pathway in. Studied in the UK, and I went because a guy that was at the weightlifting gym I was going to was doing some very interesting way of lifting his weights, and I was asking him what it was, and he's like, "Oh, I've been going to Tai Chi class, and it's really helping me, with my weightlifting." And I was like, "All right, well, that sounds interesting. Why don't I go?" And I had this very fascinating experience in this very cold church hall in the UK, where this guy kind of put me into whatever standing posture it was and sort of adjusted my position, and I got really hot. My heart rate went up. And I was like, wow, that's kind of fascinating. I must come back. And that's basically been my journey through martial arts, is doing something by accident and then going, this is interesting. I need to know more about this, and then carrying on. And it was actually after I moved to the States, my Kung Fu teacher, my internal martial art teacher, he was a student of Sonny for a time, and he had a VHS tape playing. Yes, it was back in the days of VHS. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he had one of those TV VCR combos in the corner of the school, and he had one of his tapes on, because every student, I think Jay and Greg probably told you, got a VHS tape, like part of your class was you brought a VHS tape and it got put in a machine. He had one and you had one, and if a third person was there, often there was a slot for them too. And he recorded the class, and your homework was to take it home and watch it.
I do recall that. And I thought it was so fascinating that he implemented that. I thought that was such a fantastic thing to do.
I highly recommend anybody that trains to video themselves, because a lot of the stuff that you don't think you're doing, and you actually can't fix it until you accept that maybe you are obvious, or you are telegraphing, or like all these things. It's like, it's really useful to watch yourself. It's absolutely horrifying, but it's a really good practice.
Oh no, that's not me.
I know, right? So I saw this video, and it was almost like I found the thing that I had always been looking for. I was like, wow, that's it. I want to learn how to do that. That's it. That's what I've been looking for. Completely random. And that was then my mission, to go train with him. And through one thing and another, I got the opportunity to go and trained with him until he died.
So what year, just so for the folks, as far as your journey is concerned, what year thereabouts did you meet him?
I met him in 2000. Actually, I met him in 1998 because he did one of his rare seminars in the area. And at that time, I had learned some of the basics from my Kung Fu teacher, and he, just some of the basic pendulum and basic, angles and stuff like that. And I decided I really wanted to talk to him. Like kind of angle in and try and see if I could become a student, because I knew it was really difficult. Everybody knew he was like this massive hermit, and it was really hard to get to study with him. So I got a friend of mine who was a sheet metal worker to make me some training blades, so I'd have something to show after class, after the weekend seminar.
Okay, like
or maybe it was just a day. Well, yeah, just like how it is after a seminar. You don't want to just go sort of.
No, I know, because everybody's going up to talk.
Wow, that was really cool. Can I have a photo?
I know.
It's like, you don't want to be a groupie, right? But I figured if I had a question to ask that was kind of like something that so I went up with my trainers and I said, "Hi, Sonny, I made these, and what do you think?" And he was like, blah, 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 gave me that. He says, yeah. He said, "Your angles are really sharp. If you want to come and train with me, then, you're more than welcome." So he actually invited me.
Green light. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then subsequently, so I did, and that was my entry. Yeah.
Okay, so 2000s when you kind of started training them consistently and all that. So you're going there. You're going from internal arts to this. Such a huge difference in weapons. So what was your initial
not that different
takeaway?
Not that different, because my primary art wasn't Tai Chi at that point. It was Bagua Zhang. Do you know the thing that walks around and around in circles?
I got you.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I apologize for if you can hear any banging in the background. I actually live on a construction site, so the thing behind me is not because I'm going to kill anyone. This is actually just a dust wall, and there's construction going on the far side of that.
Yeah, we'll work through it.
That's it. Anyway, so Bagua, I reckon, was a weapons art anyway. But besides that, the footwork is almost identical to the Visayan material, and having the basics that I had from Bagua gave me a huge head start into doing Sonny's stuff, because so much is dependent on your footwork. So there's toe in step, toe out step, weight shift being really important, 100% weight balance, all that kind of stuff, having open hips. So I was actually really set up from my Bagua to go train with him. And also this idea that you're continually circling, because if you look at our videos of any of our training sessions, you'll notice everybody just does this. It does this thing around the room. So that was already inbuilt. So.
Wow. So the transition then wasn't a difficult one. Okay.
No. And I did fencing when I was a kid. I did foil fencing from about the age of 9 until I was 13. And so having something in my hand wasn't like weird.
It wasn't foreign to you. Okay.
No, not at all. And interestingly, my day job, I paint houses for a living. So I have paint brushes and I have rollers and rolling poles in my hands all day.
I had my own business when I was a teenager in early 20s. And I thought going to college was going to be the best thing in my life to do. And I don't use anything from it. I probably should have kept the painting business.
Well, it's fun because I still do it now, and I get to practice every day because I have like stuff in my hands. I get to practice hand switches.
Yeah.
Switching the roller pole around. Yeah. But yes, it felt natural to me. I've always loved weapons. I really wanted to be Errol Flynn when I was a kid, watching movies, swashbuckling stuff. It was like totally my scene. And I guess I was sort of born to do it somehow. I just love them. Who knows why?
Attraction, by we're in this, these arts. Somewhere along, genetically speaking, or ancestral, or whatever you want to attribute it to. But there's no coincidence, why we chose these arts that we gravitate to. There's something about, I don't know.
Well, I think swords are very particular too. You can always tell. Like if you put a sword in somebody's hand, some people will go kind of, like, ew, it's like it's kind of like scary, and other people will just be like, And you're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
okay,
but
yeah, one of those.
yeah, no, yeah, right, and that's obviously us.
Yes.
um,
Go
um,
figure.
so when you start, so he gives you, he invites you, of course, to come train and all that. So I mean, you go there. So I guess, as far as him as a teacher and all that, what can you tell the folks just the experience? Like you going, I'm assuming just like Jay and Greg, you went to his house. Um,
Yes.
okay, and so I guess take us through that. Like, I mean, that had to be pretty incredible. You're going in his own place, and he's having you move around right from the get-go, or is he?
Oh yeah, that was the first thing he did pretty much. He would put a sword in your hand and say, okay, this and that, let's go, let's flow, let's see. Don't kill me too quick, he would say. So, all right. um, it was it was being thrown into the deep end of the pool. So for me, because I've always been fascinated by stuff I don't understand, I just kept watching him and being like, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I want to be able to do that. I don't understand how he's doing what he's doing. But I've said this quite a few times before. I think I even say it in the book. It's that for the first 4 years, I would leave class, actually for every class I went to, but definitely for the first 4 years, as though I'd had my fingers in the electric light socket. My hair was standing on end, like my nervous system was fried. I'd kind of drive home like a zombie. I'd be like, I have no idea what happened. I have no idea what happened. I don't remember anything. Am I getting better? You don't know. There's no levels.
I know.
There's nothing. There's just confusion. Because what he would do, and this is looking back on it, right, that I know now, is that he would train us kind of right where our nervous system could kind of entertain what was going on and be all like, oh yeah, that's coming that way. Oh yeah, I've got to do that, right? And then he'd just up to the level where you couldn't really consciously see what was going on. So you were working on just pure reaction. And so your adrenaline level would rise up and your nervous synapses would start firing. And then he would kind of bring it down. And that's the sort of state that he left you in. So it always add up. So so
you would have to basically get to a climatic point and then kind of, so to speak.
Well, yeah, usually he would show you, oh yeah, that was good. And you feel like, you got something. And then at the end of class, he would just be all like, yeah, no, you don't. Because now there's this. It's like, so he was kind of managing your ego in a way.
At the same time,
you felt like you were getting something, but then all the time it's like, all right, you can see up to this level, but just so you know, we're going here. And then after a while, you get to here, and you're like, yeah.
No, I know
exactly. I think I'm getting it. And then they just go a little bit more, and you're like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. So that was the process. And I have to say that, I mean, he had not that many people come through his doors. It wasn't like hundreds and hundreds, but there was a large selection of people that came that didn't last, that couldn't handle the chaos, that couldn't handle the uncertainty, that couldn't handle the fact that they didn't have an idea where they stood. Does that make sense? It's like you have to have a real focus. Yeah, and you have to maintain this focus. Is it a little bit like driving a car really fast? Does that make sense? It's like you cannot lose focus on the road.
You can't take your eyes off, or no, it's intense. I mean, on several levels. I mean, I have my Lameko teachers the same thing. You things that you were referencing was like deja vu. Like I would go to him and I'd be like, man, I don't think I'm getting any better. He goes, yeah, you are. He goes, and what he said to me was profound. He goes, when you get back home from your flight, go dig up your first grade picture. Go dig up your high school picture. He goes, you can't see the differences between, but if you look at here and there, he goes, that's what I'm seeing. And then I was like, oh, all right, because I was like you. I'm like, man, I'm coming down here and I'm getting cleaned up. You know what I mean? And and stress inoculation, he would bring me up here, get me to react based on reaction, and he's trying to obviously overwhelm me, and so it's I'm not saying exactly the same, but definitely a relation to what you were mentioning. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's worth pointing out that I've probably forgotten the exact words, but Sonny did say, paraphrasing at least, he's like, I'm not teaching you, I'm showing you what I do. After that is up to you and make it yours. He was saying, this is how I fight. And because you had an agreement that he wasn't just going to running you over. You know, like he actually wanted you to learn it. You know, like to see what he was doing, understand it. He want, you know, like he taught us to see. You know, that was his whole thing. I'm teaching you how to see. I'm teaching you how to see. You know, and so there was no box of tools. It wasn't like, all right, tick, tick, tick down the boxes. It was like, these are all the things that can happen. Right now, you can only deal with this much. All right, now you can deal with this much. But like most of the stuff he was teaching, you couldn't pull off on him. Does that make sense? So what he really meant was, this is how I fake. But if you know, but every time you try it on him, he'd be like, that's totally a fake, right? So you had to take the knowledge that he did on you and then do it to other people and see if you could pull it off. Like that was the way it had to work. And that's why we worked as a group often, right? It's like we had a private time with him, but then we would play with each other and, you know, try and get those principles to come out, or those things to come out, those tactics to come out and be able to use it on someone else.
See, that's how I would relish that. I really would. Like I don't do well. Like, okay, here's a syllabus. You need to know these 20 things, and then you need to know the subsets off those 20 things. It's just too much for me. It's just like, okay, I got to remember all these things, and I got but like, I'm much more into that. You know, for me, I mean, everybody's different. You know, as far as learning and all that. But wow, how fascinating.
Yeah, no, and I think you know, and that I think was one of his great innovations in a way. I say innovation because if you ask any of the old school Filipinos how they trained, it was backyard style. You know, uncle gave you a stick and just proceeded to beat your ass, and it was just basically don't get hit.
Hitting your head.
That was like lesson one, right? Yeah. And he did the same thing, except instead of beating you so you couldn't use your hands anymore and giving you concussions, he would do that to your ego. Does that make sense? He would. No,
I told Dave Gould, my Lameko teacher, does it to me. Like one time I pulled something off and I got a little cocky. I admit it, man. I got a little cocky, and I paid for it after.
Well, it wasn't really that. It was just that he was really good at doing kind of strikes around corners, if that makes sense. And so if he was flowing with, I have to say, it's usually a guy that wouldn't move, he would actually keep hitting them on the ass. Like he could like turn the corner and keep hitting these guys on the ass. He called it the crunchy tiger. Don't ask. It's a really long story and it doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
And it would be embarrassing. And so the guys started to move because they didn't want to get hit on the ass, right? You know, a few times, like if you'd get really close to him, he would put the sword in his other hand, butt end forward, and then touch your forehead with his hand, and then put the sword back in the hand. And you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, that was really.
He just did that in real time, right? You're just like.
Yeah, he'd be like, don't get that close, and he'd be like, oh man, I'm so dead. So.
Yeah, tumbling, because you're just like, wow, I could have just died there.
Yeah, you know, he's like.
No, I know. I've had it again. It's just such similar. I'm not. Exactly, obviously different systems, but what you're explaining is much like the relationship. We got a bunch of people watching. Wow, we got Tom from England. We got Dan, Alvin, Brian Rodriguez, John Cooper, Zamak, Martin, Brian, Frank. Wow, got a bunch of people. Yes, folks, if you're jumping in, please tell us where you're watching from. So when you're there, I mean, again, he's just throwing you right in the mix, getting you to move and all that. Were there things that he emphasized? I mean, or tactically speaking, or, you know, obviously doesn't sound like it was a drill factory by any stretch of any means. So what was this, you know, what do you stress as far as tactically speaking?
Oh, it was super easy. It's like every time you went, you'd be, Sonny, what's my focus today? He's like, don't get hit. That was it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean, it's really, really simple. But the philosophy, I mean, the philosophy sounds really simple, but you have to understand that everything that you do is because you want to get home. Like you want to exit this situation. You want to deal with a situation and leave. Like that is why you move. That is why you block. That is why you strike. That is why everything you do is based around, because you don't want to die. And one of my favorite kind of quotes of his, which I also, you know, put in the book and stuff. He says, it's really easy to kill. Of course, we're talking about blades. We're not talking about psychologically. He said, literally, if you have a blade or a sword, all you have to do, I just have to walk up to you. Like, I just have to walk up to you and bump into you with the sword in front of me, right? It's like, there's no skill. He's like, there's no art in killing, was the way he put it. It's like, all I have to do is walk up to you and put it in. He said, and there's no art in dying. He said, that you don't need to practice at all. He said, it'll happen to you without you even noticing. He says, the art is in the living, in the getting away. That's why systems exist, is so you don't die. If I don't care about dying kamikaze style, if I'm running amok or something, I can kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not dead until I'm really dead. I mean, haven't they done studies on that the only instant guarantee is basically taking out the brainstem? You know, like decapitating somebody. Like most, even like a stab straight through the heart, you still got 10 seconds.
Yeah. There's going to be, no.
You know, there's time, right?
Yeah.
And what you have to realize is that when both people are in range, if I don't care about dying and they're killing me, I can kill them back, right? So it kind of changes the whole paradigm when you actually want to live.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, that was gold. I mean, right? The art is about living. I mean, you know what I mean? Wow.
Yeah, you know, and I think that most people forget that you have to have another human being to have an enemy. That you can't do an enemy without another person there, until the alien invasion at least. There's going to be another person, right? There's two of you in this scenario at least, right? There might be more, but let's say basically two. And obviously they think they can succeed on some level, because otherwise why would they be doing this? So you start from a disadvantage and you want to live. Okay. And the thing is that I think most people forget is that in a situation like that, because again, we're talking swords, we're talking edged weapons, right? Is that everybody thinks they have a 50-50 chance of winning, but they really don't. Because we actually have win-win, right? Which is actually both people walking away, like not interacting. Win-win would be brilliant. Yeah. But then, you know, we have win-lose, and then we also have lose-win, but we also have lose-lose. And everybody forgets about lose-lose.
Both dying, yeah.
And that is one of the most common problems that I see, is that people are willing to die to get the hit. And so Sonny, I think, came up with his system to get past that. And he was like, no, that's just stupid. Don't throw your life away this way, you know? That's the last thing you give away. And everybody seems to get the wrong impression of that, like it's some kind of defensive mindset that you're not going to be as aggressive. But remember, don't getting hit means everything from making good life choices, seeing something from a distance and going the other way, making the other person decide before they've come to you that you're not the target that they want to screw with.
Right, they want to choose.
Right.
No, exactly.
I mean, it can be defensive. Not getting hit can mean blocks and parries. It can also mean that I'm striking at you so much you're too busy to hit me. It can also mean that I've knocked you out, so you're not hitting me. It can mean perhaps that you're dead, which is why you're not hitting me. Right. Yeah. It's like that whole thing gets taken care of with that one, like very, very simple concept.
Oh, that's,
you know.
Yeah, no, that's profound. You know, all of it. So Wanier's class, and I guess, you know, for just what are the key elements for those who maybe didn't see Greg and Jay's show and all that, but like obviously sword was stressed and all that. Did he go into other modules per se, like, you know, long and short, or just was it primarily sword was emphasized? Sword
first. The first weapon that we trained with was the short pinuti. That was like the primary first weapon. He said train swords first and then everything else will become easy afterwards. Obviously, one of the things about sword is that you don't need power to use it. So, of course, that's something you have to add if you're using impact weapons. So there's power generation, right? But if I train with sword and I really can't take any cuts because this is a lethal weapon, you know, suddenly my angles are sharper, my understanding of range is way better, my timing is way better. You know, like everything matters more. Sword takes power out of the equation. It takes size differential out of the equation. It takes height differential out of the equation.
Yeah.
right? But not even. It takes away so many of the things that a lot of people use to defeat their enemy, like they'll overpower or they run over or they'll crash in.
I got you. Okay.
And suddenly you're faced with something that, you know, it's like, if I'm waiting for you, my sword's pointed in your direction, you know, you can't just run at it. So now what? So it forces you to think, right? So it engages that tactical thinking part of your brain. It's like, oh, well, what happens if I do this? No, took a hit. Oh, now I'm dead. You know, right? So you have to start getting a bit smarter. So sword was always first. But, you know, it's actually a very huge question that you asked, because within that, if you look at Filipino weaponry in particular, if you've seen the weapons variety of designs in the Philippine Islands, it's incredibly diverse. And one of the things that Sonny was the first person to show me, apart from how many ways there's to use a sword that most people don't think about, is all the different parts of the blade that have a meaning. Everything in a weapon design is for a reason. It's like how it moves. So every weapon has a personality. Every sword has a personality. Every sword that is the same design but is maybe slightly different maker has a personality. And you put it in your hand and it'll move in a certain way. Like it'll have a thing that it'll feel it wants to do. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, yeah,
so depending
on
where the balance is, where the little curvy bits are in the blade, how the handle feels, what size everything is. You know, there's so much that you can learn from that. Is it curved? Is it straight? Is it a recurve? You know, is it wiggly? You know, so everything single-sided, double-sided makes a difference. Length makes a difference, short and long. You know, there's so much sophistication and science in sword design. And I think most people forget, and the Philippines, because it's such a living tradition, still gets it. You know, it's like you're going to use a golok very differently from a panuti, from a kapilan,
right.
You know?
Golok, right.
And so understanding that gives you ideas about how to move. Now, the very interesting part is that once you've understood how, say, a curved weapon moves, you can translate that to any weapon you have. You can translate it to a cane or a short blade, anything, because now you understand the personality of that. And so you can use these concepts that will then cross weapons. So we trained all weapons to train different concepts. So you put certain things in our hand and say, okay, flow with this first. Oh, okay, this is giving me this kind of feel, this kind of rhythm. And then you'd take that out and you'd put something else in your hand. He says, okay, now these. But because your body had kind of understood the rhythm, the recycle time of a certain weapon, now you put something different in your hand and you're like, oh, okay, that's fascinating. Now, how does that concept work with this? So weapon systems just suddenly became like this, you know, sort of head explosion, you know, experience, right?
Yeah.
I have one of his training blades here. I'm sure everybody would love to see that.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know. I can sit.
Oh, no, we can see it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted everything to look as real as possible. This is just an aluminium one. Sorry, aluminum. We're in America. Sorry. It's very weird, this angle. This is from my armpit to my palm.
Okay.
Which is the other thing that I think is really interesting also about Filipino weapons. The size of this is to do with my body size, which means that when I'm fighting somebody, this is my geometric tool. Somebody, I think it was Julius, was asking something about sacred geometry. It's like sacred geometry, whatever. But, well, it's not sacred. It's just pragmatic. I can measure with this weapon in my hand because I know it's the length of, you know, from my armpit to my palm. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's also from my shoulder to my hip. Okay. Right. So it's a measuring tool in the same way. So often when you put a weapon in your hand, the one that really feels good to you is somehow designed so it works with your body, right? So you can do certain things with the angles because of how long it is. Okay. Interesting. It's kind of like like a cane that's slightly for a tall person is harder for me to
as opposed to somebody that may be short.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the things that you start to appreciate, and that Sonny at least got me to appreciate.
No. So then from the short sword, what was the next stop maybe for him, as far as like for students?
The sword was primary. Largo came next, so cane and old man style that I think Jay and Greg demoed for you. the concept being, again, that you have this kind of power generation and this idea of recycling power. So you're having to use your body more. So that, so even with something shorter, it doesn't just become your arms moving around, like it's connected to the whole way that your body moves. Also, this idea that it's hard to see small angles. So he liked to start with really big Largo angles so that it was easier for your nervous system to go, oh, wow, it's coming from over there. Like there was kind of a bit more time. And so then he would we'd be all like, oh, okay, I understand what this is looking like. And then you could shorten it up with shorter weapons.
Okay. I just want to just see if I missed any. Let's see. No, Dirk. We will be discussing her books. That we're definitely going to be talking about her books. Just not quite yet. Isn't the experience of wielding each weapon subjective? Question mark. This is from Mano. In other words, if two people pick up the same weapon, they could still move differently, right? And this is questions from Alvin.
Well, obviously, yeah. And I think we all have personalities that match certain weapons better than other ones. A lot of big guys like barongs and arg, like they like to throw heavy things. I like stuff with a fast tip because of the way I move. It's just how I like to do it. But technically, like Musashi said, you shouldn't have a favorite. You should be able to use anything. It's like, yeah, sure. But we all have favorites. And I think that's fun too. I don't think we should get kind of too weird out about that. Yeah. But it's like, Sonny would make all his training weapons in pairs. This was one of a pair. I mean, he actually made quite a few of these. But when he'd make like a pair of weapons that looked identical, he'd take them off the wall and he'd kind of feel them both in his hands, and he'd always give you the one that he didn't like better. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a feel, like he always chose the one that he wanted out of the identical pair, because even then they were very slightly different from each other.
There was like maybe a nuance that was different, or
Yeah, the handle angle was very slightly different, or maybe it was like the grip was very slightly wider or narrower or something. That he's like, this is favorite. This is you can have this other one.
Oh no, yeah. Oh, by the way, you can have this one.
yeah. But honestly, the individual personality is huge. I write about that a lot in my book. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that most people, I think, can relate to is that everybody dances like themselves. Does that make sense? It's like if you watch people dancing, you can usually tell who they are by walking too. I used to be, I mean, I'm still really nearsighted, but I used to be less good about wearing my glasses because I was more vain when I was young. And I couldn't see anyone, but I could tell who they were by how they walked. So everything about who we are comes out in our movement. So if I put this same weapon in somebody else's hand, their dance will come out of them when they move around with it, which is why they will like certain weapons more.
Well said. No. That was well said. Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, I think that answers this question. I'm just seeing if here we are again with the next one. Okay. All right. Yes, we did that. Okay. So then, all right. So as far like, what do you know outside of obviously the tactics, the different weapons? What did he instill in you? Any other things that he instilled in you and other students, as far as like, I don't want to say conduct, but just things like during the classroom setting in his room there and all that? Were there other things that he was unique about instilling in his students? That made him unique? Yeah, that made him unique?
I don't know. I mean, unique. I don't really have that much comparison because I haven't spent that much time in the company of other people to really know. Sonny was a very dark man. He wasn't a saint. He'd lived a life, and there was a lot of ghosts in his past. I mean, he didn't sleep very much. He had a lot of darkness inside of him. At the same time that he was one of the most humble and generous people I've ever met. So if there's anything that I learned from him was the humbleness. I mean, he was, I mean, like I said, everybody called him Sonny. Nobody called him Maestro. We all called him Maestro behind his back, really.
Like if you weren't present with him. Okay.
Yeah, it was like he didn't like that, He didn't like to stick out. He never flaunted anything because I think he realized he was done with challenge matches. He was done with fighting. He hated the infighting in the Filipino community, and he's just like, no, And for me, particularly, I have to say, as a woman in martial arts, and it's like I told you that my first Tai Chi class was in 1986. Is like I grew up through my whole martial art career, if you like, or trajectory, as pretty much the only woman in the room. I would go to seminars and workshops and there'd be like me and one other woman. And nobody wants to work with you. Everybody's like, oh yeah, and it always used to really bother me. And Sonny was the one who actually taught me that being underestimated is sometimes a real advantage and tactically really, really smart, and that not to worry about that.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, good. I mean, okay. That's nice.
Because you can use it against them. It's like, there's not much outside of tactics, honestly, because everything's relationship. We talked about that you need an enemy to fight. But every time we interact with another human being, we have a relationship. We're having a conversation. We're having a debate. We're having an argument. We're in a work situation. It doesn't matter. There's always something going on between. And, you can, everybody's got psychology, right? And so that's the part that's consistent. So you have to learn how to be objective enough to be able to see from other people's points of view, and also how to understand how they tick. And then if you're in a fight situation, you can use that against them. Or if you're in a teaching situation, you can help them, right? It's like it's the same skill set.
That's gold. That's gold right there. When you just said that you can use their personality against them, like if they're really jumpy and all that, well, you know what? Fakes might work against them because they're so jumpy and quick to. So that's gold. Wow. And on the flip side, like you said, maybe help them through some of these challenges to where the rest of their other aspects or facets of life can be improved. Oh, that's cool. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I find lady students to be the most technical. Good point. Great interview. Oh, thank you, Coach. All right. Okay. So, when did you? Just from Julius, while we're kind of still on the classroom setting, lack of a better way to put it. What was Sonny's focus on center line? Like, did he have a focus on it? Did something he emphasized, or?
Oh yeah, so I saw this. I saw this question earlier, and so of course I need to ask Julius.
He must have sent them to you as well.
Yes, he did. He snuck some in because I think he wanted me to answer them. So Julius, yes, I thought your questions are very interesting. But first, the first point. I'm not going to make you say it right now unless you're on. Is what do you think a center line is?
For Julius?
Yeah, really? Well, he's the one who asked. Anybody, right? It's like, what is the center line? Everybody's like, the center line, the center line. What is the center line? Because I'm just being rhetorical, really. It's like, I don't need you to say that, because I think there's a few. There's the one directly between us. There's the one where if you are on it, it's where I hit you. Like if you cross it, that's where you're going to get hit, right? So there's the one that I'm on, right, in relationship, and it might not be the same one. And the weird thing with a weapon is it's that if it's the line that's dangerous, the longer the weapon, the weirder that becomes. It's not here. It can be like way off from left field. It's actually the line that the angle of the sword is going to come next. And I can't actually demonstrate this for you right now, but I can.
No. But you're answering the question. That's all we can ask.
So yes, center line theory. Yes, closed and open. But the way that you see the three-dimensional space around you when you fight, it's bigger. It's a lot bigger than you think. How about that?
No.
Okay, so Julius actually said center line in pugilist and European dual fencing sense. Yes, but you have to understand that pugilistics this is what's coming. They might be like this and they might be like that, but it's all here. European dueling systems, tip-only fencing, right? So maybe saber, but saber now is going to be slightly different. Why do people in duels do this and not just this when it really matters? Is because the center line isn't here. It can sometimes be off here because I can hit you from there, right? I can hit like a line from there. So you need to not be there. So the center line with longer weapons gets more and more interesting. Oh, good. Apparently I've answered his question.
So then, that was, when did you start teaching? Like, when did you,
Oh, there's a good story about this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, Sonny always had the best timing. Sonny wanted most of his students to teach. That was his idea, was that the art was not going to die. I don't think he was that possessive about it. I think he was much more old school Filipino. I think it, and again, maybe I'm going to get into horrible political trouble here, but one of the reasons, as I understand it, that systems change names from generation to generation, or used to, is because, exactly like I said earlier, all errors are mine. It's not Sonny's fault. He showed me as well as he could what he did. Me going off and losing a fight is not his fault. It's not the technique's fault. It's nothing to do with him. It's mine, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't say, I have Sonny's system. I can't claim that, right? It's mine. Everything I learned comes from him. Like, the lineage is absolutely there, but it doesn't get called this. This is not the box that moves forward in time. It's the material that moves through time. It's like I'm a vehicle for passing on what he was so generous to show to me, and I'll pass it on. But then that's it, right? It's like that's kind of like, the way it goes, if you like. And now I've completely lost my thread. What was the question again?
No.
Oh, yes, the teaching part. Yeah. So anyway, so he wanted everybody to teach. And he wanted everybody to keep notebooks and kind of come back and learn from there. Like, he wanted it to be an interactive process. So when I finally made a time to teach, which was in 2006, I said, I'm going to start getting a study group together and do some teaching. He's like, very good, very good. And I had a date. I'd already had an article published in the Journal of Asian Martial Arts in 2004. And he thought that was okay. I got kind of like the okay of that. And then I was like, all right, I've got this class planned. And then he got sick, which is actually, around this, he got diagnosed with brain cancer, and at the beginning of 2006. So I was like, all right, well, now I've got to teach, right? So I got it all planned out, got a space to do it, got a plane and a date, and he died on the morning of my first class.
Oh no.
Yes, the complete fucker. Excuse me, I am now going to swear in public. But I don't think he did it on purpose, but it was really, really interesting.
There's, wow. Yeah, I didn't know. Wow.
So he died at about 11 in the morning, and his lady friend Elena, who had nursed him through all the time that he was sick, she phoned me up and said, he's gone. So I went over there, and then we just kept phoning people, and everybody kept over for the day. So I spent probably most of that day there until mid-afternoon, and then I left, and then I taught in the evening.
Yeah, a good way to celebrate his life. He went out and got, you know what I mean? Wow. So when you started to teach it, you're 6 years in, like, I guess, because obviously the pendulum is a big deal and all that. How did you find challenges initially when you went to go teach this? Whether it be the pendulum or, and this is going to tie into a question from Dan, so I'll kind of link the two together here. Or was there challenges teaching art based on almost exclusively on flow, and were teaching the pendulum? Were there challenges there for you initially?
Oh my goodness, yes, that's what I've been spending the last, 14 years of my life trying to decipher. Because before he died, we used to go over to his house and train while he was, he was almost bedridden, right? Because it was his life. So we'd go train, and he'd teach from sitting down, and
we'd enjoyed it too, having you guys there.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I think I think it was a really good thing. But he said to me, he's all like, don't teach preset drills. Don't teach patterns. Promise me. And I was like,
oh, good on him. Oh, good. Oh, that's good on him. So, yeah. So now the whole thing of subjectivity. Yeah.
Well, it was just like, well, how do you teach something like that? So that's been my job. That's been my sort of like my quest. For the
I'm imagining that definitely there's obviously some challenges with. So let's maybe just talk about a little on the pendulum. When you're teaching students, what are some of the challenges for you to kind of get across to them the importance of the pendulum and the significance?
Well, the hardest part is that, in a sense, we were learning to dance with a dance master, or I was learning tennis from a tennis pro. So the tennis pro is like lobbing balls at me over the net, and I'm returning them, right? And they're controlling what they're sending to up my skill level, right? That's the way it worked. So in a sense, how do you get two people that can barely hit the ball play with each other? So it's hard. What you have to try and do, and why the books I wrote are about the subjects that they are, you have to picture the interaction. You have to picture the enemy. You have to understand the context. And so there's that whole kind of picturing why everything is at the end. So you have like the big picture and working back. And then you need to have some physical skills that you can insert into that. I mean, the system is actually very simple. In essence, you learn how to move forwards and backwards, right? And you learn 4 cuts. End of system. That's it. You know, it's not complicated. The pendulum, what that does is, instead of like applications starting with this person does this and then I do whatever I do, right?
Okay.
This is our standing still. We're standing still because the range isn't changing. And both of us are right on the edge of the range, right? So this is standing still. And the reason why that is kind of key is that in the first way, we are learning about spatial relationship. You know, you're learning about spatial relationship, but there's no time relationship. So what the pendulum does is it adds relationship in time, like when things happen, right? The opportunities for things to happen present themselves, right? So we're actually adding time into the, 3 dimensions of space and making space time. And we're using our relativity, if you like. So this is kind of like...
and the changing of time, correct?
Yes, yeah. So how space and time are actually the same thing and completely interrelated, and how opportunity manifests within time. You know, one of my early insights was that most techniques in martial arts schools happens with when they come in with a number 1, or they come in with a number 1, or whatever it is, like, so it's an overhand right, they're going to strike.
Yeah.
And Sonny's big question was like, why did they throw that? And you're like, okay, why did they throw a number 1? Well, I was open and they thought they could hit me. All right. So that meant you were in range and open and they thought they could hit you. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's obviously then why you block. All right. Or you move. It's like, but why was I open and in range and they thought they could hit me? Well, I made a mistake. Or, it was an ambush. You know what I mean? Like, you have to work it back because your enemy is not stupid, we hope, right? They have a reason. They think they can win. They're hitting you because there's an opportunity. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not going to try and hit you. And that was one of the big failings that you see in most arts that are purely taught, especially in the internal arts, from application. It's like, well, if you're watching for this moment to come for them to do this, you're always going to be behind it. You're always going to be behind the timing, I mean. You'll be like, oh, there it went. Oh, not ready yet. I'm not in the position to take care of it. You don't have the ma'ai, like they say in Japanese. You're not in the right place at the right time because you're always late. So you're always late. Okay. Yeah. So you have to add the time element in, and that's what the pendulum gives you. So it's no real mystery. It's like the only things that can happen from this, like, range staying the same distance is that it closes or it opens. Yeah. All right. It stays the same. Oh, I got to close it, but now I got to come out. And then of course you add the round and round scenario because most people are one-handed, and that's why it makes it go round. So it's very pragmatic, but his random flow method is this kind of interim training phase in between, just skill set training and sparring was how, how to throw a good sword cut. What your blocks look like. How to move your body, invade and fade and, whatever it is that you're learning. But now we have this little forum in which to, like, but when do I do it? I don't know. Are they coming with a 1 or a 2? I'm not sure. Oh, they came in with that side. All right, I'm going to go this way. It's like, all right, because now you're watching. Now you're kind of participating in the event. So it's kind of like an event participation program.
Right. No, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So I can imagine the challenges. Like you have somebody just walk in your, first time, and now you're teaching them. It's just based on flow, then the pendulum, and all that. I mean, that can't be easy.
Well, there's a lot of skill set stuff that you can do solo, and there's a lot of partner practice that you can just do with the other person as a object full of targets, right? So you can work on range, you can work on touching things that you're looking at, you can work on like your foot accuracy, your blade accuracy. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that you can work on, but now the target's moving. You know, you can do it standing still, and then you can add moving. But the tactical stuff, it's like, it's easy if somebody trains with me or with Jay or with Greg or any of the other guys, you know, because I can see what you're missing. And I can start troubleshooting, but it is a garage style system. It's not like a big school system. This is garage style.
No, yeah, it's not. Yeah. It's not for the masses. I mean,
it isn't.
I mean, I think anything attribute development that's solely attribute development or tactics. I agree with you. I don't think it's for the masses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's fairly simple. You know, the whole random idea. It's that. If I was telling you how to evade something coming at your head, and I said, okay, lean to the left, shift your weight, pull your shoulder back, you know, you can start working on that, I guess. But the easiest way would be for me to get a tennis ball and throw it at your head.
Throw it at my head, and right. Yeah.
It's like we're built in a lot of ways to understand how to do these things. You just have to do them in a way that's advantageous to you, and not that, you know, isn't like this. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely right. Organically, right. We have it built in us to evade. It's just right. It's just the correct evasion, or the the more fine-tuned evasion. You know.
Yeah, there's definitely some counterintuitive stuff in martial arts, right? Moving towards is often safer than running away. You know, people have a problem with that. You know, everybody wants to fight from way too far away. You know, so there's definitely some counterintuitive stuff that you have to build in confidence into the student. But often it's about seeing space, seeing lines. I mean, swords are really interesting. I mean, okay, if we take a firearm, technically a firearm is only dangerous in one direction at a time. It's very dangerous in that one line, but all the rest of the space is safe, right? It's just coming real fast that it's hard to not be on that line.
And to dodge that,
yeah. But swords are kind of the same way in that it's only dangerous on the line that it's coming in on. Over here it's safe, and over here it's safe. So once you sort of understand like all the empty space around what's happening, then it becomes much more like a playground to play in than like, oh no, it's a blender coming at me and I don't know what to do with it, you know?
Yeah, as a poet, right. But if you think about it, like you just mentioned, kind of in a playful context, you know what I mean? And I'm going to guess also that releases some maybe initial apprehension on the student who's maybe perhaps getting overwhelmed and all that, but put in a playful context, I'm sure that's
much easier to learn and play. Much easier to learn and play than anything else.
Well said, I agree.
I mean, it was one of the reasons why Sonny got rid of the hitting people's hands and learning through pain. Because though I think certain people can learn that way, and obviously nowadays that's kind of like I have to use these for work, so I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I'm learning that way.
But his theory was that it built in a reflex where you start to maybe kind of avoid it. Like it actually builds in a flinch reflex.
Oh, you're kind of jumpy, so to speak?
Yeah, so like, you know, that's actually really hard to get rid of later on. He wanted everybody's perception of space to be like really fine angles. So your evasion was just like, I'm on the line and then I'm just not, you know, just like real thin margins. Yeah.
Never thought that could create like a jumpy.
Yeah, you don't want to feel the twitching. Yeah.
No.
And Sonny would call those freezing points. I mean, interesting what you were saying about beginners. If the safer someone feels, the higher I can work at their nervous system level. You know, like I was talking
100%.
about.
If they're already tense, apprehensive, that's pretty tough.
People want to, like my Bagua teacher says, he's like, you know, you want to cool the emotions. You want to be able to, you know, essentially you're actually splitting the brain. You know, you want one side to be just reacting to what's going on, and you want the thinking side to be going like, oh yeah, last time I did this, they did that, which means I can use that again, right? But you need both sides. It's a little bit like there's kind of a mosquito, but you're kind of going, or a fly. You know, you don't worry about the, you know, this, I'm playing you, but this is just noise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. I got you. No. Yeah, that's great stuff. Just like you said, on the new person coming in, how to play would make them more at ease, and then more apt to learn and like start to digest this material, as opposed to being like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's interactive in that it involves the student being self-aware enough to be able to change things, which is why the VHS tapes came in so handy from our classes. You know, it's like
what a great thing that was.
You keep kind of closing too much, you keep closing, you
Yeah,
shouldn't do that.
yeah.
And then you see the
Literally.
video and you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally always like charging in up the center line. Oh, I guess I better fix that. So it's not a very easy process of learning, because you're basically learning through failure. It's like,
yeah, but you know what though? I don't know about if you agree with this, but what I tell my students is that, look, learning from failure is going to be one of the best things, particularly if you could start to see success of course, identify why you're failing. I mean, if you can't identify why you're failing,
well, that in a sense, that's what I'm for. It's like I'm the guide that knows the map of everything.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, the reason why this is happening because you're doing this thing. Look, there it happens again. Oh, you're about to do it again. There it was. This side's open. Tag. Right. So Sonny spoke a lot when we worked out. So you were always moving and he was talking.
And he was giving you feedback.
He was giving you feedback, but he was also lying to you and fibbing to you and trying to like rattle you. He would shit talk a bit. So it was so you started to actually become really aware about, it was like this sort of subtle underneath training that he wasn't really telling you about, but it would be like, oh, that left hand's open, I'm going to tag that left hand, and immediately you'd be like hiding this, and then it'd hit your right hand. You're like,
right, because you were focusing on the left. Yes. Now he went back to the right.
Yeah. So he's like, you don't believe me? And he's like, ha ha ha. And you're like, damn it,
I know.
Damn it, I fell for it. So, but sometimes he'd be all like, your left hand really is open. But even by doing that, it's just, all right, it might be, but that doesn't mean to say that all your attention goes just to the thing that's happening.
Yeah. But I tell you though, for newcomers though, it's going to be that left hand that's going to be the focus point at that moment in time.
This is hard to control until it becomes. I mean, it's called live for a reason, right?
I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions over here. Musician or dancer? And what skills, signature practice when you? So Julius has got 3 parts.
Oh yeah, you're looking about music.
Musician or dancer? Yes, he's asking any background in musician or dancer, far as you, and what skills of time signatures do you practice when you do the pendulum or spar? With how about modes?
I don't really know what you mean about mode, but I'm not a musician or a dancer. In fact, give me anything that I have to remember as far as choreography. I can't remember anything. Stand in front of me with a sword, completely happy.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same with you, man. Don't give me a syllabus with a bunch of stuff to remember. You're not going to get the best out of me.
But Sonny was a musician and he wrote music. And we also always flowed to music. And it took me a while to realize that he actually picked the music on purpose instead of randomly just put a cassette in. Because we were in the days of cassette. Because he wanted to bring out a certain rhythm, or he wanted to do something with your emotional state. You'll hear in the background sometimes a bunch of new agey music, sort of trance, just like bimbly trance music. And that was because you were getting kind of a little bit, like wound up. And so he'd like stick it in there. And then he'd ask you about your weekend and what you're up to. So you'd kind of calm the shit down. Then other stuff he'd put on like Euro disco. That was because he wanted to get you to,
get you to start.
Have a rhythm. So that was always in the background too. So subliminally, you had all these cues about what he wanted. But again, I didn't realize that until later.
Okay. No, interesting. And I just want to see, Dan, I see your question. We're going to get to the knives in a bit. Okay. All right. So then, so we got through the obstacles, the better train both. Well, you know what? Good as time as any. Okay. So Somoko, the blades. All right. So basically collaboration. We got Toby. And Roy Miller. So what kind of fused that collaboration? What was the inspiration for you guys to get together and kind of design or come up with knives?
Well, I have been tragically disappointed by every knife design since training with Sonny and holding the weapons that he modified and he designed and made, because they are all immaculately balanced. They all move like nothing else I've had in my hands. And he has spoiled me to anything else. Anything else I put in my hand and I'm like, it's dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. Huh? Oh yeah. Crazy. You can tell one of his weapons because it feels different. And I could never find something I wanted that existed. So I was like, I'm going to make my own.
There you go.
Toby and Rory and I, like I said, I was like, I want to make a knife and stuff like that. And we decided to make this collaboration, this company, really, so that we would have a venue to all sell our stuff and also to keep each other honest. So I'm an only female child from a middle-class, boring family. I don't have a shitty childhood. I haven't, been on Dar streets. I'm not like some Navy SEAL who's done whatever the hell, right? So
right.
I wanted feedback from people that understood stuff. I would say, all right, like, this is my design. What do you see? What do you think is bullshit? Give me some feedback. So that's what they're for. Toby will have a knife that's coming out soon, maybe this year. But apparently I have all these designs inside, so I've already made 2 and they haven't released any. So
and you got one here for show and tell, right?
Yeah, I've got the second one, the Maija. The Vari I don't have because it's elsewhere. The Vari, it's really interesting designing knives because it's very tiny, subtle differences that make a massive difference to the feel of the weapon and the shape of it. And the Vari is really, it's like my inspirations for that were obviously the Finnish pukka because my family's originally from Finland, but also the American Bowie and then this Filipino recurve idea because I just love Filipino weapons design. So it came out as kind of like a combo. If it was like a backwards knife that you were out with in the 19th century wandering, it would be the knife you carried. So you could use it to fight like with a Bowie, but mainly you could use it as a camp knife. You could do everything with it.
Utilitarian.
Yeah, exactly. You could eat with it. You could fight with it. You could chop wood with it. It would be all those things. And it's a great knife. It's made by Will Capron Knives. He's the fabricator. And I chose him because I actually sat next to him while he was grinding it until the balance was what I wanted it to be. So it's balanced how I wanted it to be. It also takes a bunch of Sonny's ideas about modification. Sonny modified everything he made. He modified all the handles to fit his hands. So you can do that and make your own handle that fits right. So it just basically has a full tang skeleton handle. It comes with a basic thing, but you should modify them. So I made that, and it's kind of a dude knife. It's really big. And I was like, wow, that came out kind of bigger than I thought it was going to come out, right? So I was
like,
you're
happy with it though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm totally happy with it. But it was just kind of a bit, kind of like a joke knife on me, as a sort of a carry. So I started to design, knowing from the first one, I kind of modified. And so the Maika's the second one. So this is more my kind of size of knife, and it's this one.
Okay.
This is a Ranger band on here, by the way. This is kind of homage to Sonny too. There should probably be another one right there. He really liked this as a kind of a grip kind of option.
Okay.
I usually have one on the back and then another one here. And if anybody knows about Ranger bands, they're pure rubber, which means you can use them as fire starters and all these other kind of things too. So they're kind of like a multi-uso little thing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so there it is. This one's the second one. And then the handle obviously is got a little bit of, it's really hard to get the angle correct here for that thing. So it has a little bit of kind of like a positive grip on the back. You could add a lanyard. It's really easy to tell with the edges. There's a little thumb groove in the back.
Okay.
So yes, this is the Maija, and I may make a third one, Dan. I'm not sure. It seems like everything should really be in a trinity. So I haven't worked out exactly what that is yet. I'm not sure whether to do a sword or whether to do a short blade. So that
I would do a sword. And the reason, just my opinion, I think it'd be really neat because you obviously have a great detail for balance and all that. I'm just thinking a sword would be.
That'd be kind of fun. So I might do a sword.
Yeah.
I need to show you this though, this sheath, because it's a really interesting sheath. Just because this is made by Gerald Lindsay for me as a custom commission. So traditionally Filipino weapons sheaths are like 2 pieces of wood with a string around them.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
Because in a hurry you can actually draw straight out the side. You don't have to do this.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So he made me this.
Oh wow.
Yes, even though it won't.
Won't fall out. Yeah.
It won't fall out. So it's like that on the edge.
Oh wow, how clever!
You can pull it out.
Oh wow, that's really nice.
So I have a Filipino sheath. Yeah.
Yeah, what a nice feature. We got quite a few questions here, and this,
Okay.
I tell you, this is why you should make. This is why you should do a sword in your next one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend any particular makers for training
Training
swords?
swords. Yeah, well, Capron makes all my stuff. Mostly him and I met. He was somebody that I met through Rory Miller. He's a young knife maker in Minnesota, and he was really great to work with on the Bari, and he made the Moika too. And so he actually flew out to California to visit with me, and he came out with a scale, and he weighed all of Sonny's blades that I have,
No
the personal
kidding.
ones that he
Oh,
made.
wow. So he's that detailed.
The real live ones, and he made accurate drawings and did all these very, very accurate measurements, so that all his training, all the weapons that he makes that are Sonny's style, like the Sonny's designs, are the same balance points and the same, pretty much. They're they're not exactly the same, but they're as close as you can get to what Sonny.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think the feel is important.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm sorry. What is his name again?
Will Capron, Carpron, Capron. Sorry.
And you love what he's done thus far. Okay, that's funny because I've never, until I read your bio, I never had heard of him, and obviously, sounds like he's very talented.
Yeah, no, he has his own knives and stuff. He makes everything from kitchen knives to fancy knives and commissions and stuff.
Oh, wow, I gotta look him up.
He was really good at giving me what I wanted and working with me to do that, and I really appreciated the effort that he put in, especially flying out. When I said about the training blades. So yeah,
I never heard of that. Flying out with a scale and then taking blades. And Alvin's second question is, how do you evaluate a sword?
What do you mean evaluate? Like, do I like it?
I guess how would you? I guess fair to say, like, how would you, based on the feel, how would you evaluate it? I guess from a personal preference from you, I guess.
Well, are we talking modern swords or antique swords, like real ones, like that have been out there in the world?
Gonna have to. I tell you what, let's go with modern.
What's that?
Let's go with modern. I guess we'll go with
modern?
And then. Yeah.
Okay, it has to be balanced right so that the shape fits the weapon. I have a personal preference in style anyway. I don't like dropping weapons as much. The Pakiti Tershorms that I like uppies. I like recurves. So that's my personal preference. Okay. But it has to basically, when I put it in my hand, I have to feel like it makes me move, right? If it's if it's a dead weight, like it's balanced badly, or the handle's a bad design, I don't have a sense of where the edge of the blade is if I'm not looking at it. If it's too big for my hand, if the back end is too long, like the handle's just too long for my hand, whether it's balanced wrong, there's so many things that are annoying about swords.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, things that we, including myself, kind of take for granted without really. Are there particular people that are making Sourcé recreations that you particularly like more than others?
No, not really. I mean, there's some HEMA guys that are doing some really beautiful HEMA blades, and I don't know enough about HEMA, but my HEMA friends really think they feel authentic, and there's a lot of historical research in the HEMA community to try and make them really authentic. But if you put an actual old cavalry sword in your hand and compare it to something that is modern, it was completely different.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that there's that much of a difference, huh? Mm-hmm. Really? Yeah. Huh? Wow. So then it's fair to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying that some swords are just clunky anyway. Just so you know, it's like there's some sword designs even from history that were just like I'd be like,
they weren't just even back then.
Absolutely. It wouldn't suit my personality, but I think Japanese swords that I felt that are really amazing, Filipino swords that I felt that are amazing. HEMA swords, I don't know that much about, but I can definitely tell the difference. Like a cavalry sword, for instance, I know what one feels like that I like.
That's as opposed to really like
yeah.
Okay. So far as getting back to like people that recording some of the Filipino swords. So nothing like that you've experienced as far as holding, feeling, moving that even compares. That's like compared to like original ones. Is that fair?
Some antique swords. Yeah, for sure. But they come with their baggage, right? So I know Julius isn't fascinated by this, but anybody that's handled old weapons that have probably seen some action, like from any culture. I've handled some from India and Japan and the Philippines.
Just a difference, huh?
And they have different energetic resonances to them.
No kidding. That is amazing. I mean, because the reason why I'm asking is, I mean, I've held antique swords, but I don't know. You know, it was never told to me their history or what have you. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've heard parallel to what you mentioned, that there's like what's being regenerated today is like so far from like the really good antique swords or when they're used. And I'm just wondering, is it just a lack of craftsmanship, you think, or is it just negligence in the detail?
No, I don't think the people that are making them are using them right. I think, you know, one of the seminars that I might do after COVID is actually talking about all the things that are missing from people's sword use.
Oh, you should. Like, oh, gosh.
You know, because everybody does stick first because that's how the systems are taught. And then they put a sword in their hand and they use a sword like sticks. And so you can use a sword like a stick, but you've missed all these things that it does. You know, they're completely different. It's like a sword is a singular weapon. It's the only weapon ever invented by human beings designed to kill people.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it wasn't for chopping wood. I mean, you know, obviously it could be used.
It's not for chopping wood. It's not for a knife. Can be used for other things. A spear can be used for other things. An arrow can be used to hunt. The sword is about people, and it's, you know, this is a training blade. Obviously, this is aluminium, and it's not going to hurt you. This it's the only weapon that works like this.
Oh, can't argue that.
Right?
Wow. So that's sad. I guess what I'm alluding to is, I guess it's just unfortunate that there's not, you know, company currently out there that could like really make like the feel as you're expressing.
There may be in the Philippines. I've seen some incredibly gorgeous work. You know,
it would be over there.
Yeah,
it would be safe to say.
And like people that use them and make them, or worked with guys that use them, were like, can you do a little bit of this or make that a little bit more like that? Like, you know, you could, you know, even back in the day, I think there were blacksmiths that were better and worse at their jobs, right?
Yeah.
That people really, you know, they went to certain blacksmiths, you know, like there's those old Viking blades that have a particular name on them. I can't remember. Somebody probably knows that, because this one guy made amazing blades. And it isn't just about the blade lasting and the steel being good, which is obviously part of it because he didn't want it to break on you in battle necessarily, but it's about the way that it feels in your hand. Because one of the reasons why people have all this weird spiritual stuff around swords is they'll kill you or hurt you just as easily as they'll kill anybody else. They're amoral things. There's a lot of fantasy novels, right? You know, why is it so fascinating? Because it's a dark implement. It's a killing implement that can save your life. So it has this immense duality like held within it.
No, there's a mystique. Right? A mystique.
But you know, if I'm stupid about this, I can quite happily kill myself accidentally by doing something stupid. So you have to trust your sword.
No.
Yeah, just like a firearm. You know, you want to use a firearm that's not going to jam on you.
Yeah, you got
it feels good in the hand and all that, right?
You better know it. Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay, so I need to go get my power charger because I didn't know how long we were going to talk, and I'm going to run out of power very soon. Can you talk amongst yourselves for 2 minutes?
Oh, I sure can. Matter of fact, I'll show a video. Oh, please do. Yeah, no worries.
Excellent.
No worries. I got you. Yeah. Wow, this is utterly fantastic. Okay, so while she's doing that, folks, I'm going to play a video, and I believe this is actually perfect timing. But here we go. Check it out. I will lower myself. That was wow. That was. I'm hoping you saw that.
Yes, I did. There was a fun class. I was over helping. It was Jay's class, and so then we were all there one day, and we were all flowing together. It was really fun.
And I've watched it a few times, and I'm always mesmerized just by watching you guys, do that. We can talk about this before we get into the books, and just like I see the element of play, but I obviously see the element of tactics all kind of same time being kind of intertwined, and all that. But I definitely see a playfulness, but at the same time, like obviously you guys have clear objectives and all that. So I just love watching.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get together to play like all the time. Sadly, we should, try and do it more often because we always have such a good time. So you have to realize that these events are really just a good time. None of us are trying to kill each other, but we're trying to kind of like keep each other honest to a certain degree. It's like, yeah, no, you don't get to do that, So we do try and get each other, but we're not like being rude.
No, I saw absolute respect. While there was a playful element, I didn't see this. No, I thought it was, I thought it was wonderful to watch, and I've seen that a few times, and to me it's certainly enjoyable. But yeah, so at any rate, let me just see if I'm not missing any questions. What different kinds of ventures would you categorize? Do you see that?
Well, at its basis, you have people that are aggressive and you have counter fighters. That's the basic difference. You have people that want to walk into you, and then you have people that wait. I don't think you don't get that many rushes in Sword because people die too quick to do that very often. Though I'd put under aggressive fighter. What you see mostly is how people lose. That is the most interesting difference. I think there's different ways people screw up, and that is often a key to how to fight them. Like when you're playing, like Sonny would say, see as much as possible in class so that when you're out there you don't get kind of blindsided, that you recognize stuff. And humans actually aren't that complicated. There's not that many options. We aren't, we're all individuals, but we're all kind of got tendencies, and there's not that many of them.
Yeah, right. We're not. We're not that special. Speaking individually, speaking.
Yeah, and the question is really when is the other person going to come? Like, when does that moment happen? Like, can I control the when? That's really the whole game.
Well said. Right. Imagine that if we could control the when, man, we would be.
Well, Sonny's whole thing was, it's like, if I know what you're going to do next, I can beat you. Correct?
There you go. Yeah,
so my whole job is to make you do something that I want you to do next. That's it. That's the whole game.
Yeah. No, that is fascinating. I mean, think about how simple, just like in that little phrase, if I can control the when, you know what I mean? Like simple, but it's freaking huge. You know what I mean?
Which is a real problem if all the time you practice applications and you're given the when.
And you're right, like you're telegraphing because nobody told you were. It
doesn't even matter if it's fast. It's like, you'll see people say, okay, stab at me fast. Yeah. And then they're waiting, which means they already have them eye. Do you know what I mean? They're already in the right place at the right time, and they know what's going to come.
Yeah. No, that's Julius, you're hijacking. What we perhaps the rest of the needs to take notes.
Oh, because we get on.
Here, close this door. I'm sorry.
Well, there wasn't that many of us at Sonny's, and honestly, Sonny fostered a particular attitude. If you had a big ego and were a real asshole, you didn't last. Last.
Yeah. Nor should you have. You know what I mean? Yeah. Good on him for for kicking out. Wow, great stuff, man. You might hit the. It's weird. Like I can think back of interviews where people have just said like the most profound and most memorable quotes to me. And Mark Wiley said something. Ray Galong, and you're the third one now. I hope he's about to win. So
yeah. All right, good company. That's all right. I'll take it.
Yeah. Mark Wiley, Ray Galong. Yeah, absolutely. The books. I went to the cliff. Matter of fact, I ordered them because
there we go.
I'm just, yeah. And shame on me for not getting before, but I've been gifted books since doing these interviews. I am like 10 books behind as far as reading. It's we'll get to them, but okay. So your inspiration, like what gave you the inspiration? Like, hey, you know what? Was it in Sonny's honor, or is it more of a challenge for you? Something, a goal for you that you always wanted to do? Expose more of the art to the people, or
when I first started off martial arts, I found books interesting because it just made me want to practice. Right? It's like, oh, fascinating. I used to love the history stuff, like Bhagwat Journal, if anybody remembers that. Holy shit! It was full of like ridiculous stories of myths of Chinese legends and stuff. But it doesn't matter to me because it made me want to practice, and that was like the goal. But most martial art books are really boring. It's like photos of techniques, and you're just like, I have no idea what's going on. I can't do this, right? So the stories were the fun part to me. So that was cool. I said earlier that I'd spent the last 14 years trying to work out what the hell it was I learned. And the books kind of are that. It was like a challenge. Don't teach preset patterns. Don't teach drills. Please teach my art. How? Right. So I was given a massive question when Sonny died that I didn't know how to answer. And so it's been a journey of trying to work out how and what. And the insight that I got from Sonny was that there's a huge part missing in people's thinking, which is the tactical thinking of fighting, like understanding what the hell's going on. So those are what my two books are about. They're all about tactical thinking. The first one's byline is Deception and the Art of Swordplay. And the second one is Swordplay and the Art of Tactical Thinking. So all the stuff that is missing from applications-based training and training patterns, none of which is incorrect. The reason why the patterns exist is because often that's the order things kind of happening, because you do this and then they do that, which means this next thing comes, right? So there's nothing wrong with them. It's all correct information, but nobody's giving you context. So these books are about context, and I wrote them because they're missing. They're missing from the lexicon of martial arts training. And
fantastic.
I felt it was a gap that needed to be written about. And honestly, they were both kind of in my head. There's a video series that goes with the first book. There's 42 videos that were filmed by the wonderful Greg Manalo, who is such an amazing videographer. And I had 42 drills, and these are just for, basic ideas. And then there's the video set. We filmed it in a day. We filmed 42 video clips in single takes a day. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's just like,
I'd be like, it would be a year for me. I mean, it takes
literally. And the book took a while to write because I kept not knowing exactly where it was going to go, but it was kind of all in there. And then the second book came out a lot faster, and that really came out because I was asked to do a talk at a martial art conference.
Okay.
And I was driving around in my car working out how long you have to talk for to take half an hour or whatever it was, 25 minutes, and I didn't know. And so I started to speak, and I'm trying to, my whole thing is that it has to make sense. Like the logic arc has to make sense, so that if I start from A and you're like, okay, yeah, I give you that, and then I go to B and they're like, okay, yeah, I got that. Each piece stacks. Yeah. So by the end, when I get to my message, if you like, people are like, oh yeah, okay, that totally makes sense. Of course, it's obvious, right? So I was in my car just talking out loud where I'd start from, and I was like, I think this is a book.
No kidding. Oh, wow. From a car ride, man. I don't know many people.
Quite a few car rides.
Yeah, from car rides though. That wow, that's. I do want to just ask something because I found the title like really jumped out at me, and as well, I'm sure as well as others too. So the first book, The Liar, The Cheat,
and the Thief,
the Deception, and the Art of Swordplay. So
and the Thief. Yeah.
I mean, like what? I think it's very catching. And all that. So was this something that came easy to you to come up with that title, or was it?
Yeah,
did you
absolutely. No, that was totally easy.
Wow, and and just from the years of training with him, and it can't. Well, okay.
Well, that's what tactics is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Lying what you're gonna do. I mean, stealing the moment, cheating, right?
Thief, steal the hit. The second book, The Hustler, is also about that. It's about basically how the most successful criminals are the ones you don't know that did the crime. So I use the pickpocket as a metaphor. It's like the best pickpockets come close to you, do the business, and they walk off and you didn't even know that you got robbed.
I know, huh?
And it's like, and so what you need physically and psychologically and timing and like all those things make that possible, and they practice just like magicians.
Yeah. It's an art. I mean, it's an art.
Yeah. So all the reasons why we do all the physical stuff we do, why is it really important to understand what 100% weight shift is? People are like, oh, this is kind of esoteric. Why does it matter if I'm 100% weight shifted? Because you can't move the other foot until you are. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have to be on one side before something else can happen.
Yeah.
If you're like 90% there and you still got to go that way before you go forward, you've lost a split second. And all those split seconds stack up. So all the pieces are important. Just like picking a pocket, you need to put your hand in such a way that it doesn't touch anything. And you need to practice that because that's why it works. So all the physical stuff comes from the context. That's why we focus so much on this stuff. You know?
No, I mean, wow.
You can't kick someone unless all your weight's on the other leg.
Yeah, it's fit right. I mean, pure physics. Wow.
I mean, it sounds stupid when you say it out loud, but that's why. But most people don't know what 100% weighted feels like. You know, you're like, shift your weight to one leg, and they do this, and you're like, you know, all right, pick the other leg off, and they always do a bit more. It's like, yeah, well, that was 95%, but it wasn't actually 100.
Yeah, but it wasn't like you just said.
And that little bit matters. You know, sword is an art of millimeters. It's like fractions of an inch matter.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the weight, like you just described, I mean, yeah, totally. Wow. Just on the there was something I was reading, and again, you kind of alluded this before, but it more geared towards this more the second book. Just, you know, on the tactics and all that, and it seems like you also were incorporating like risk management and all that. And why I'm bringing this up is when you alluded before, you know, both dying is obviously not a good thing and all that. And so obviously an element of risk management and all that, as far as trading and all that. I mean, what can you expand on that just for the folks and all that?
Every interaction is risk reward. There's an equation, right? There's you get something by winning, you know, and there's a price. You know, so what you're willing to risk. I think, the phrase that I came up with, by the way, is that dying second is not a win. So yes, I got them. It's like, yes, I know, but
yeah. And then a second later, your head is going all of a sudden.
But yeah, risk management. So I think everybody imagines themselves as the winner all the time. This is how we train martial arts, as though I already got the moments in time and then I just keep control and then I win, right? Nobody looks at martial arts as damage limitation. So as somebody I'm not that small, but I'm like 5'6", you know, and I'm female, it's like, I can't take that much damage until I'm down. If I was fighting empty hand with a 280, 6'2" dude, there'd be very few targets that I could strike him at that would do any damage, right? Unless my timing was perfect. So my accuracy has to be right on. My timing has to be really good. I have to set it up so maybe all his weight's on that leg while I kick his knee out, right? But I only have a very small opportunity until he basically grabs hold of me, shakes me, and chucks me on the floor.
No, it's true. I mean, right.
So the risk reward, the risk is super high for me. And if I start thinking of it as damage limitation, all right, what do I have before that person can reach me and grab me? If they're totally fearless and they're coming. I got knees and ankles. You know, maybe I get something when I'm closer, and I'm not saying that there's no options there, but all I'm saying is that that bigger guy that's real strong and trained can hit me in a lot of different parts of my body and take me out of the game. Whereas I only have a few targets that will actually be guaranteed. Does that make sense? So my risk is like way higher than their risk. Their risk is tiny. My risk is massive.
Yeah, no. In which this is kind of a side question. It's not really relevant, but I would really love to hear your opinion and thoughts on this. I did an interview with 3 females, and it was surrounded around women's self-defense, the current industry, what they're doing, how I think it'd be better. for several reasons. Not to go into that, but one of the conclusions I have based on, and it was going from the context of women who really don't train. And one of the conclusions I've come to, not because I want to be right or I'm needed to be right, it's just what I'm thinking based on descriptive words you were using, a woman, how it's got to be very particular, small in stature, being overwhelmed, getting grabbed, all the above. I think it's weaponized. What are your thoughts?
If you're small, you're at a disadvantage. Everybody has these stories of like, yeah, in BJJ, small people can beat big people. Yeah, they can. Absolutely. But they can't take as much damage as a big person. A big person just can take way more damage than a small, and that's where the disparity is always going to lie. So if you're small and weak, it sucks. You already have to realize that if you're getting in a self-defense situation, somebody's going for you because they think they can take you.
Is it right? It wasn't coincidence. They picked you.
They're like, that's easy. And you can try and be as aware and forceful as you like, and that might put somebody off. If you've twigged it, and now they know that you're watching them, and you can use your movement to get away. Yeah, absolutely. You can absolutely manage that. But you have to, the further away from the actual confrontation you can switch the dynamic, the better.
100%. Right? Yeah.
Because it's like once you get toe to toe, the options become less. Having said that, the other thing that you can, like using the underestimated moment, if there is no way out, you can let them get close enough to you, but they don't think that you're a danger to get that one hit that you can get, right? So again, if you look at the Hustler book, a lot of it is playing assumptions. It's like if you can make the other person predictable, you've immediately upped your odds. Yeah, because you can be unpredictable, and you want to keep them predictable. Yeah. So I think self-defense for women is a very tricky issue because, absolutely fight back.
Very tricky issue.
But I think the reason why fighting back works is because they're not expecting you to do it.
No, as opposed to just laying down and God forbid they just
But I have to say, it's like it's going to suck. It's not great, So the situational awareness stuff. I live in Oakland, California. I've traveled a lot in the world, and everybody's like, "Where's the most dangerous place you visited?" And I'm like, "I live in the most dangerous place I visited." And nothing's ever happened to me on the street, but things have almost happened to me on the street, and I can't tell you whether I was right or not to, do the thing that I did, which was circle or stop or stare or grab like my rolling pole out of my car,
Yeah.
I don't know. Was I right? But they all decided it was, they stopped.
Yeah, right? No. I mean, the whole thing with you, like you mentioned, I mean, not just the self-awareness, but like obviously picking up on things that somebody's eyeing you, and all that is absolute gold. But
so a lot of the stuff that Rory Miller teaches, for instance, is really good. It's like there's windows everywhere. Just look in the windows to find out who's behind you.
Yeah. Right.
Wander around, be aware. So I mean, women have to understand that their ability to take damage is less. And so you have to work from that sucky position because it just
No, right. I mean, you got to understand. No, but I mean, right. There has to be an established baseline. And the fact is, right, you can't take as much damage. They're not going to be as strong. They're right. But it is a tricky thing.
It is a tricky thing. I'm not saying that I can't do damage on a guy. It's just that I have to do it before they do damage to me.
No, before you substantiate like a couple blows for them, and now you're No.
So it's got to matter. It's got to be accurate. It's got to take out the computer or whatever it is.
No, the hard drive.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's what's got to go. So you just have less opportunity and a way bigger risk than they do.
Yeah. No. Thank you. I was curious on your thoughts on that. Future books. Alvin would like to know anything coming down as far as the future, as far as books?
No, there's got to be a gap. There's got to be somehow that there's like, oh, I didn't realize people didn't know that, and then I'll have to write about it. I work best in conversation, obviously, because talking to myself, I don't know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So that gives me the ideas. I mean, like I said, I'd like to do this very focused sword usage seminar that I think would be really fun. I don't think I want to do it as a book though, because the book doesn't make any sense to me on that. So I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's what he asked. I mean, a question from on the books too was people that are get your books. I mean, does it matter what order? The question was basically, does it matter what order they should read them? I mean, or is it like, should they do the first book first, or as far as the understanding of the system and what you're talking about as far as tactics and all that?
This one's kind of a bit more nerdy martial arty, you know. It's got definitely stories about Sonny, but probably from where? Let's see. I mean, most of the book is drills.
Okay. And the second one's more tactics.
That much is drills, and this much is story.
And the second one's more tactics.
This is all like, it's bigger picture stuff. So it's stuff like when you're out in the world, watching how people walk, trying to walk like different people, you know, trying to pick up different personalities. You know, it's a different way. It's like a whole book about mindset and awareness. It's looking at, you know, a huge art from warfare down to dueling, cultures, you know, how much can you read in a person before they come to you? What can you tell by how they walk, how they stand, you know, what they're wearing, where you are, you know? It's about intel gathering and stuff like that.
It's getting, hey, you know what? It's getting back to controlling that when. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. And how far away, you know, there is a moment in time when somebody decides that they want to fight me, whether it's, you know, back in the day in the Philippines where they offered each other challenges, or they were, you know, Sonny was walking through a shitty neighborhood, you know, is that somebody's like, all right, I'm going to take that on. Right. And it's like, and how early in that can you stop that?
Right.
How early can you manage that reaction? It's like, I can't control you, what you think. I can't control any of that, but I can control maybe what you think about me. I can control the relationship between you and I by changing this. Yeah. You know, does that make sense? So, you know, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go, you know, come in, and I suddenly go, you know, and look at you weird, you'd be suddenly like, what?
Yeah, I know, it's like that, right, because that would throw somebody off like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person?
You know, if I suddenly, you know, was like, does that make sense? So it's like, you can screw with people because we're social creatures. In nature, you have group dynamics, you know, like one person yawns, everybody yawns, that kind of stuff. We understand what standing up straight and being really kind of big and mean means, because that's in nature. We understand what certain, you know, body kind of like, you know, affectations mean. Like, it's language. There's all this sort of nonverbal communication. And if you don't have a massive ego and you don't mind looking kind of like an idiot, you know, get some of your acting skills out and, you know, play with them a little bit. Like the other day, for instance, this was like before COVID. So, you know, it was when there were actually lots of people on the street. And there was this young kid, kind of like, you know, some skate biker sort of asshole kid. And he's like on his phone and he's just walking straight down the sidewalk. He's not looking up. He's making everybody kind of like just go around him, right? He's like doing this. So I'm like, all right. So I'm coming the opposite direction, right? So I just start staring at him and I walk directly towards him. And we're quite a long ways away. And I just keep looking at him. I look at him and look at him. And right at the last minute, he faded off. He veered off. Yeah, I took my hands out of my pockets and I just started walking towards him. And I was just soft gazed right at him. He didn't look up until right at the last moment. Then he went off. But he knew, because do you know what I mean? He knew he was being a dick. He was just the owner. Sure. Yeah. And I was walking in a certain way and I was looking at him and I had a certain
you were
expression
walking with lucky confidence and like, look, you better move.
Well, it wasn't really confidence. It was more like, I'm going to fuck with you. You know, like, you know, what are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, yeah, really? You're going to keep walking? Because I'm going to walk right into you. I'm going to walk right into you. I'm actually going to walk right into you. You know, and they sense it. It's like if you've got a cat or a dog and you look at them, they'll always look at you back. Have you done that with a cat sleeping and then you start staring at it and then it opens its eyes?
No, but I don't. I got 3 dogs, so.
So yeah, I've got 3 dogs too. So just look at the dog when it's sleeping and you'll get like a,
oh yeah.
Animals know when you're looking at them.
Yeah, we get in staring contests. It's like a daily thing.
Right? So, you know, so you can have a lot of fun.
That's what, like, you know what I'm going to do for an activity, Maija?
I know. Don't be an asshole when you're
No. You know? I'm going to, no. It's not my nature. No, it's really not. It's really not. But what I am going to do, though, I'm going to go on a busy intersection and find that person that's just no care in the world or mind for anybody else, but it's just walking in a straight line, making people move. And I'm going to I'm going to do your thing.
Or, somebody that's totally oblivious, stand really close to them behind them and then kind of breathe on them. That's hilarious too. Yeah, I mean, really, don't be creepy or
No,
all I'm saying is that there's a lot of signs out in the
kidding.
universe, and if it becomes fun, it actually becomes a game and playful to become aware of your surroundings and to understand how people do it. Crosswalks are really hilarious. Everybody's waiting for the crosswalk sign, and everybody's center weighted, so everybody will lean one way before they walk. Watch that next time; it's hilarious.
No kidding. I'm gonna have to watch that. Okay.
Yeah, most people will lean in the same direction.
No kidding. All right, I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm gonna definitely have to watch that. You give me some some good little.
So yeah, so this book is full of that.
Okay. When you meditate.
Oh yeah, he's talking about cat sitting when he's doing yoga. Yeah, my dog's come.
Julius. Okay.
My dogs come and sit in the center of my bagua circle when I walk bagua. So yeah.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, question from Jason: where do you see Sonny's art in the future?
I have no idea. It's everybody's like, oh, this modern day, people don't want anything, and yeah, I don't know. You can't get good at this unless you spend the time. You got to do time spent. It may well die. All my work is going to get archived with the Immersion Labs Foundation.
Good for you.
So everything that I think is worthy on VHS tape is going to go on there. We're probably going to be filming for a few weeks of me live doing stuff. We're going to look at. We're going to do a bunch of interviews with people trying to get Sonny's history, because there's stuff about his early life that I don't know very much about. And then we're going to look at the training and how the training was, what he taught me, and then we're going to add my end on it, which is the Phil Am end. Once we're in America, and I'm like the first generation, person from here, even though I'm not American, but person who, and my view on it and what I've learned from it. And so that whole piece will go into their archives, and their archives is really fascinating. It's in universities around the world. It's all going to be a digital archive that's going to be held there. So that at least will exist, and my books will exist. I think this is stuff that all the ancients knew. If you look at any traditional martial art, they know all this. It's all built into the systems, but nobody's fighting for real anymore. So everybody's forgotten. Everybody's forgotten the danger. Everybody's forgotten the risk.
There's no real, right.
I mean, yay, happy for that. Really happy.
Right. It's certainly something we don't want to start embracing.
But I think that I'm very worried about Filipino martial arts that'll go like Chinese martial arts, that'll become more and more commercialized, and you'll lose all the.
I think it's already happening. I hate to say.
I know. Mm-hmm.
I hate to,
And it's like, I learned from a guy that really did things with swords.
I know. And here's the thing, too. You touched upon something that I've talked about in episodes, why we need to get the younger generation involved, because I'm telling you, some of these systems will die out, and I'm going to have
probably die.
And it's so sad. Like I have you familiar with Stephen Dowd?
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, FMA Digest and Informative. He currently right now is the only person teaching Arnis Belete. When he dies, it's going to be gone, because he has no instructors to carry on. And I hate to say this, and I speak of this, one, not to be gloom and doom, but really to get the younger generation to carry this on. And I think there's going to be systems in the next decade or two that you're going to just see start, and I hate to say this, kind of fall off the map.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I even think there's changes already happened, like you said. I'm incredibly fortunate to have met Sonny, and I'm not going out fighting duels for real. So there's stuff lost already between me and him.
Yeah. I mean, right. There's a loss of translation.
So all I can. Interestingly, most of my student base comes from outside of Filipino martial arts. The people that seem very interested in my books and my teaching are people in Chinese internal systems or the HEMA people, because they have all these books of techniques, but they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. You have all these forms in Chinese stuff and partner practices, but nobody knows why. And I'll be like, well, this is why. This is why this looks like this. This is why this happens. I mean, the amount of times I've been sparring and I've done some kind of like weird move on one leg, and I'm like, oh my God, that's in the Tai Chi form. And you're like, oh, look, it's in there. There's a reason why it's in there. So if I can give context, because fighting's fighting, climate, clothing, terrain, all gives context, right? It's going to be different fighting with European longswords in the cold, wearing a whole bunch of armor, than it is fighting in the Philippines in sandals and not very much, right? So that, but if you understand how that affects what you're doing, if you understand tactical thinking, you're in a much better position to recreate something that is closer to the original than if you just think, I do this and then they do that.
No, right. No, I totally agree. Like if you came from a drill format oriented curriculum and tactics weren't emphasized, there's no way you're recreating anything.
But if I can give people into an insight, it's like, why do we have, strikes with a cane to the foot? It's because people wear sandals, right? That's why you're doing it. Why do you hit in this particular way? It's like, oh, well, you're protecting your hand in this particular way, or this thing's going to happen next. This is why it looks like this. The pragmatism of our ancestors, cannot be underestimated.
No. I'm right. I mean, blunt they went to the foot because they weren't wearing anything. They weren't wearing steel-toe boots.
Yeah, and it's not like you could just take injury. You're back in 1600 and something. Yeah, I mean, Musashi. How many deals did he fight? Fights did he fight? I mean, often he cheated, which is why he won. Which is, we were like, yes, good tactics, mate.
Yeah.
And he was also bigger and stronger than most people, regardless. So yes, good on you, tactics. But I don't think he really got injured. How would he have possibly lived to, that old age?
Yeah, right. He didn't take many blows or many. Right.
Yeah, he didn't die second.
Yeah, right. He wasn't playing an exchange game.
Exactly, and so. All these old people knew. All these guys, our ancestors knew all this stuff.
No, I totally agree. But we don't give them. I don't think we give them enough credit. No, I totally agree. Right, totally agree. And man, so what we're gonna do? So collectively thinking, what we're gonna do to save these arts? Any ideas?
I don't know. I think because you have to have an innate passion for it. I saw it and I wanted it, and I kept doing it because I didn't understand what was going on, and that kept me going back because I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I have to go back. And so I kept going back because I wanted to move like Sonny moved.
Yeah.
It was just a passion, right? And he was right there. And it's like, it was easy. It wasn't hard.
No, but I'm just thinking
so to have those kind of people that have that passion and that interest and are willing to put the time spent. I mean, I trained privately with him many hours a week for 6 years. Every freaking week, I didn't miss any days.
No. Absolutely, you were dedicated. You put the time in. No.
But it wasn't hard. It wasn't like I get a gold star. It was just like I look forward to going.
No,
it was fascinating. Yeah, but that's why I got good and I interacted. I think a lot of the stuff nowadays has also become very transactional, and nobody is really telling students how to be good students either. I mean, that may be a book. Maybe that's a third book. I
can tell you right now, in my form,
student handbook.
FMA discussion. I can tell you students not being good students, man.
Well, you don't realize it's like there's old phrases from the Chinese martial arts like steal my art. Like your job is to steal it. And so in a sense, I've always treated all my teachers as honorable enemies. Does that make sense? It's like this person is incredibly good at what they do, and I want to steal their secrets.
Okay. I do now. Okay.
But maybe they don't really want to give them to me. But if I pull a certain kind of motion out of somebody, I walk that line that I'm not going to piss them off by being too much of a dick. Be too cocky. But if I can, if I get better, they'll be forced to have to.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Well said.
So like my friend Dylan says, he's like, I want to steal your kung fu. It's like, that's
actually
the mindset you got to go with.
So future all right, so let's because man, we're going on tour, but this has been fantastic. I hope we're not.
No, it's fine. I could talk forever.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, we're coming on 2 hours. Okay. Future things. You mentioned immersion labs. So what do you got for future projects, goals for yourself and the system?
I don't have any goals. My skills are basically deteriorating because you only get good skills when you play with good people. Obviously, we play in our group, which is great, but I'm not saying that there's nobody out there that can kill me. I'm not. You can kill me very easily.
No, I know where you're going with this.
But that whole thing is that people have to pull the skills out of me.
No, right? It's funny. It's funny. Like if you don't have that person that's better to you to hold you accountable, you're gonna start losing. I mean, no. And there's another teacher told me this, one I referenced before. He goes, you need people to hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
The before, during, after. He goes, everything, you know, and man.
That's why, you know, Greg and Jay and Ken and the guys is such a, you know, a bonus, because Jay's posting his videos and I'm like, damn it, his double weapon's getting really good. Now I'm gonna have to practice.
You're out there like it's frustrating because you're watching it and you're at the same. I mean, you're happy.
Yeah.
But the other side is like, man.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. It's peer pressure. You know what I mean? Like, so there's that. But again, it's like, you know, I can twirl all the, you know, twirl. It's meaningless, right? It's like, all right, well, what can I pull off? And that's one of the reasons too that I think was amazing about Sonny's teaching model, is that he wanted his students to get better. You know, I think one of the reasons he started teaching was he'd had nobody good to play with. Like, you know, by the end of the time, he wanted us to be good because he couldn't let his art out, his genius out. There was nothing, there's nowhere for it to go. You can see towards the end of, you know, like, you know, the videos that we sort of made after we all got like some skill, he's laughing, he's having a really good time. Because it's like finally he's getting to move.
Oh, you've seen it and what he helped develop and create. And,
it's not in us, but it's like he's actually getting to have to like get this stuff out of his body. It's like, oh my God, that's really close, right? So suddenly he's starting to be able to go at his speed almost, right? He doesn't have to go like remedial speed for everybody else.
This is
so
awesome.
You know.
All right, immersion labs.
Yes, immersion labs. What about them?
You touched upon a little. What you got going on with them coming down the pipe?
Maija started out actually by phoning me and asking me if he could come train with me. So that's how we met. Then at that point, he was just starting to get his immersion labs concept going. And I've taught at a couple of his events at the Legacy of the Blade. And then, what was the other one I did? Anyway, I've done 2. And then because they started going on these hoplology expeditions. So he's trying to keep, you know, carry on the work. Started like this idea of trying to locate all martial culture around the world and have that be a valid like study interest in anthropology and, you know, sociology, like how fighting arts around the world are actually a huge part of history and human behavior, you know, cultural studies and stuff, and how it's really been kind of poo-pooed because everybody's like, violence bad, you know, and they check this stuff out. So, you know, Don Draeger, you know, was really big into that, you know, back in the day. And so they're trying to carry on, and that's what the title comes from, the hoplology, which comes from the hoplites from the Greek, right? So that's the name of the subject. And so they decided to revive this idea of studying martial arts from places. And they've been traveling to places all over the world to video, and they literally video and they do not edit. They're like, show us your system. And they take whatever footage that these people will show you, and then they're archiving it. And everybody that participates, you can say, I don't want any of this released until after I'm dead, for instance. It's up to your choice. Or you're like, oh, I'd like to make some videos out of this. And then, you know, they'll make videos for you that you can release and maybe earn some income on. But it's a place to put all your stuff. I believe they have participating universities in the States and in India and in the Philippines already, and maybe in other places around the world, that this stuff's going to get archived. And I don't know if it'll necessarily be for students that want to move, but it will be for people that are studying at university doing doctorates or something like that. So they can be like, this is what people did in the world, just like languages that are being lost, right? This is like a movement language. So he asked me to, you know, participate if I was interested in doing that, sharing some of Sonny's stuff. And then if other people want to add their material for Sonny, that'll go into the same archive. So I'm just going to give my point of view, you know, into the system.
That's fantastic. Wow. So I'm coming on. This has been absolutely wonderful. I'm so thankful you came on. This is like one of my best interviews. Not from what I did, but just from hearing what you said. I love your mindset on the whole tactics. The whole you're gonna get controlling the wind. You're gonna go down with that.
Read the book. Let me know what you think. Get the Hustler.
Oh, I'm definitely getting the book. Absolutely. I'm one. That's a given. I'm definitely, and I look forward to it. But what I'd like to do for our future tense, because I think it'd be really neat to bring the 3 of you on You know what I mean? And it'll be like a part 2 with the 3, you, Jay, and Greg. And
it'll be very difficult to get anything done because we'll be laughing and goofing off so much.
Oh, that's okay. You know. I'm light at heart, so I'm not that serious. But really, yeah. So if that's an interest of you guys, I would love to make that happen. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have a very particular point of view because of who I am, how I came to martial arts.
Yeah.
Fighting from disadvantage was basically always like my path in, and so when I saw Sonny, I think I outweighed him, you know, and I was like, if this guy can pull it off, I can do this. You know, most of my other teachers have been like big dudes, right? And I was like, yeah, that's okay, but you know, you're 6 feet tall and you weigh a lot, you know. I was like, maybe,
I
not.
know.
You know?
I admire what you've done. I you know what I mean. You know, I think it's fantastic. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing you out there and definitely getting you back on. And definitely when I get your books, I definitely that'd be a reason right there to get you back on. You know, we can go over that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, no, I would love to have you back. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because I was a little nervous, man. Because I'm like, you know, I hope I ask the right questions, and I hope I keep her, you know, interactive.
I'm not difficult. I'm not that difficult.
No. It wasn't. No, it wasn't you. It was usually I'm not nervous when I do this. I kind of click, you know, but I just want to make sure I was, you know, asking the right questions and. You know,
it's my psychological kind of manipulation that's
making you nervous, that you were enjoying and getting something out of it as well.
No, it's nice. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Sonny stuff. Like, you know, it's like I could talk endlessly about it because it's so fascinating, but there's no reason to say anything out loud unless somebody asks questions. It's a joy. In a sense, like our random flow, you know, like I use the tennis analogy. It's like, you're like, here, what do you think of this? And I was like, excellent. You threw me a ball and I'll chuck it back to you. You know, it's what our flow is about. It's like, it's like, I'll throw something. And it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen next. He said that. All right, let's do, you know. So this comfort in uncertainty, I think, is a huge part of our system. And this is why conversation is really fun too, because, and that's how it should work. It's like, ask me something. I don't know. And so then I get to, you know, understand about people.
100%.
It's interesting and get to talk. So, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, I wish you best of luck and everything with the merchant stuff, and you'll definitely be hearing from me again in the next few months coming down. You know, I'd like to, you know, midsummer get the 3 of you back on. You know, I think that'd be a lot of fun for everybody to see all 3 of you on. You know.
Well, yeah. You know, I've got my 2 vaccinations now, so technically I'm safe to go play with people.
All right. So you're right then. We're gonna make it happen. You know, I mean, you know, I believe me. I try to make things. Man, if I want somebody on here, I do everything to make it happen. So I'm persistent. So,
okay. Like you're gonna need a plan, because what I'm saying is like otherwise we're just gonna freaking goof off.
No. I'll have a plan. Oh yeah. I'll have a plan. Oh yeah. I'll have plenty of time to work on it. Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I'll definitely have a plan. Oh yeah.
All right.
All right, well, I want to thank you so much again. This was truly, truly enjoyable. So what I'm going to do is I download this to YouTube, and what I'll do is I'll send you the, I'll message you the link.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll share it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maija. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys, everybody. Sorry I didn't have a chance to really say hi to everybody in the chat. Really appreciate everybody's comments, and hi, everybody. It's nice to see you.
Nothing but great stuff. Nothing but positive stuff. So. All right, you take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Wow, that was fantastic. Okay, who's coming up? News. Saturday, Stephen Dowd, informative FMA Digest, FMA Informative. I mean, you know, definitely one of the guys who inspired me why I'm doing this. Besides Dwight Woods, Stephen Dowd. 100%. So definitely check him out. Grandfather of documenting FMA interviews on tape recorders before there was. So definitely check him out. That's 4:00 Eastern time Saturday. Also, far as future news, I will be definitely going to be playing the raffle, which will be held in FMA discussion. I just got to pick the night. It'll be probability it'll be a weekend night, and so I'll definitely give details on that when I know them and all that. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Again, Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We got Stephen Dowd, FMA raffle, because we had over 1,000 subscribers. We'll be coming with that, and hopefully I will see some of you Saturday. All right. Actually, it'll be me and Julia Saturday too. All right, Val. Thank you for tuning in, and see you soon.